Wait, so who's the girl?
An angry blonde woman, 10 years younger than Elizabeth.
Okay, so like I was getting really bored, honestly, because I was just like, okay, like and like you know what I'm saying? But now I'm like, okay, all right, interesting
Yeah.
now. Interesting now.
Okay, so welcome back. Welcome back, Allie,
Whoop,
to
whoop.
the just miserableness of being desperately attracted to someone that you don't want to be attracted to. So this is not going well. Elizabeth is like hungover almost every morning and she's really neurotic. She's afraid that James is using her and Rosie and kind of sponging off of them. Not only for like a nice house and whatever, and for her sex, of course, but also for content for his book because his book is largely autobiographical. So she knows that this is going to end up in the book. And I'm sorry, but she and Rosie are charming people to come across and be able to write in a book. They're very bookable characters. He says I love you and she just can't seem to say it. All she can
Ooh.
say is that she's super effed up, super effed up. Sometimes when James would get up in the morning, she would get up with him, but she would also often stay in bed and pretend to have experienced insomnia. And then it kind of moves to when Elizabeth's missing James because he's head down writing in his apartment. You know, he's going off. He's like, you know, he goes there and then he goes for a couple days or whatever to his apartment where he's actually writing. Rosie's like, are you gonna marry him? And she's like, she doesn't know. And then Rosie asks her mom, like, if she loves him. And she says he makes me feel happy all the time just to think of him. And Rosie's like, okay, why won't she just say she's in love with him?
Right.
Like, Rosie's like, okay, why can't you call that love? And she's like, I don't know.
So Rosie's once again getting involved in her mom's
Yeah,
business.
and having
Except
some,
it's
by
not a
the way,
swimsuit, it's a man. Yeah.
fairly valid thoughts.
Yeah.
And she and Rosie are read in the window seat, and Elizabeth is getting distracted because she can't stop looking at her child's face. And something really interesting that happens in this passage is that night when Rosie's saying her prayers, James is actually second on Rosie's God bless list. She has a long God bless list. And James is now second on that list. And
Wait, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Did he used to be first?
No, I think he wasn't on it, right? He
Oh,
got on
okay.
the list
Oh, okay.
second. And I think from my memory, there were a lot of people on that list, and a lot of random things like the pencil man and the cat from 12 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
James, and then Elizabeth is basically reading and she finds an interesting discussion that kind of talks about why she's reading Beowulf. Elizabeth is reading Beowulf, and the question is, why do men keep going back to the mead hall if Grendel's going to devour them every time?
Right.
Which I think is a fair question, and that's also kind of like, why do any of us ever keep going back to the mead hall, even though Grendel's going to devour us?
Mm-hmm.
And Elizabeth thinks about Ray, who always goes back to the mead hall. Elizabeth decides that she wants to call James, and she joyfully dials his number because she misses him. She's going to go back to that mead hall. She's already at the mead hall, so she may as well enjoy the mead, right? So she joyfully dials his number, and a woman with a British accent picks up.
Ooh.
And Elizabeth hangs up, and she knew it all along.
Of course she did. Sure, all along. She knew exactly that he was cheating on her. Sorry.
Yeah. And in that experience of the mead hall, she was kind of at this point, she was like, yeah, I'm going to tell him I love him. She was like, I'm going to do it. She calls him.
I was being sarcastic, by the way. I don't actually think people usually know when somebody's cheating on them.
Oh, no, absolutely. No, yeah. I was thinking about the point that I kind of missed was that really like she was at a point of security. That's why she
finally. Yeah.
And then, of course, so she's processing that, and the phone rings, and Elizabeth, again, she waits 10 rings and then picks it up. And James is like, why did you hang up? And she tells him to guess why, James is really glad. She's jealous, and he tells her that Link, his friend, and his girlfriend are here tonight. And he asks her to admit that she loves him. And she says yes. And after an hour of reassurance, James tells her he'll be there in an hour. So he takes this experience and twists it, and it's kind of cute, right? He's like, okay, because you thought that happened, it means you love me, right?
Wait, so who's the girl?
Allegedly, it's Lank's girlfriend, but the final paragraph of this chapter 12, our most uncomfortable one so far, potentially, an angry blonde woman, 10 years younger than Elizabeth is that James is. And as he talks on the phone to Elizabeth and apologizes, she is just there being angry at James. And Elizabeth actually is apologizing to James for doubting him.
This is this is the whole scene right here. Like, she's talking to him. He says, I'll come over in an hour. And then we as the audience see that he's actually cheating on her and he's lying to her. So we basically have another Ray situation with the pouring out of the rum. Oh, I'm going to pour it out. Like, if you don't say you love me, like, I'm going to, you know what I mean? Or whatever.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I don't think I ever connected that, but
yeah,
there's a lot because we've been in Elizabeth's mind and we've been afraid and we've been like, oh, is this one of those things where like, is she being weird? Is she being weird because she keeps obsessing about the fact that he's not big enough,
Mm-hmm.
And then you see, it's like, you're seeing clearly, this is not one of those instances where this is beautiful because he's cheating on her. And all her problems aside, there's not a world where this is okay.
Right.
And she's definitely not supposed to like put up with him cheating on her just to prove to herself that she's fine with the fact that he's shorter than she is. So
right. Well, and it's like maybe that's bothering her so much because she can tell, like, why are you insecure in the relationship? You know what I mean? Like, what's the deeper thing? And so it just leaves us on that cliffhanger of the blonde woman 10 years younger.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so like I was getting really bored, honestly, because I was just like, okay, like and like, you know what I'm saying? But now I'm like, okay, all right, interesting now. I think like people like to say cheating is they like to blame it on the other person. Because like when you're a traitor, well, I wouldn't have had to be had you not said you loved me, or had you not had sex with me, or had you not done this, then I wouldn't have had to go do this. Like as if we're in control of their actions. And it's like, dude, like, so it's just, that's really fascinating.
From what you've seen so far, I'd love your thoughts. And again, this is kind of me trying to tell you what's happening in the story. So it's kind of filtered through me, but do you think that James is sponging off her and Rosie?
Probably. I mean, I would say probably because, I mean, he doesn't have a kid and then he's having these little conversations with kid and it's fun to see the kid's view. So definitely like having that experience of playing daddy and he's renting the responsibility of it. What?
Rent a kid.
Right. Rent a kid, rent a car, rent a kid. So he basically has the enterprise rent a kid, and he's got this hot lady who's taller than him. Like he probably knows she's a little bit out of his ballpark because she's taller than him. I mean, that's a societal like expectation for the guy to be taller than the girl. It still is. I think it's kind of stupid, honestly, but I also understand it. But it's also just, and I think it's literally just because of the physical makeup of how you have sex. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think there's a lot of things. Yeah, like people want to be able to have sex standing up. And I think that's a little bit, sorry, crass, but like, I'm just saying like there is a thing there, but that being said, like it depends on the person, the body, and like that's a particular thing. So I totally think he's taking advantage of them. And I think that she's very vulnerable to like being taken advantage of by people that are totally immature. Like, but I don't know. What do you think? Are you excited to read the rest or like, were you excited to read the rest at this point?
I'm now excited to read the rest.
Okay.
I felt like that was a sprint and we were just like, because think about it. We went from Elizabeth we went from Elizabeth is passed out on the couch and Rosie, and then we go through hiking and James and the gallery and all these different things. And I feel like we've really grown. Like, yes, it's been 6 chapters and in some weird, strange way, we now know so much more about these people, but now we're also ready for the thing to come after we learn about the people. Rosie's pissing you off, and Elizabeth is really pissing me off more.
Well, I mean, yeah. Let's see what happens. Let's see if I can be one to Rosie's side.